What if I told you that a simple Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design, even in bad condition, could be worth millions? Money bag. Most people ignore these coins, but hidden errors and rare varieties linked to Thomas Jefferson might be sitting in your pocket right now. Don't skip this video, you could be holding a fortune. First up, the 1999 D. Jefferson nickel is one of the most recognizable modern American coins, and even in bad condition it carries a deep connection to history, design tradition, and the legacy of Thomas Jefferson. This coin belongs to the long-running Jefferson nickel series that began in 1938, replacing the earlier Buffalo nickel. By the time 1999 arrived, the design had already been in continuous use for more than 6 decades, making it one of the most stable and consistent coin designs ever produced by the United States Mint. The D Mint mark on your coin indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the main production facilities responsible for circulating coinage across the United States. On the front obverse of the coin, you will see a portrait of Thomas Jefferson facing left. This portrait was originally designed by Felix Schlag, whose artistic work won a national competition in the 1930s. Jefferson was chosen not only because he was the third president of the United States, but also because of his role as the author of the Declaration of Independence and a key figure in shaping American democracy. His calm and thoughtful expression on the coin symbolizes wisdom, leadership, and intellectual strength. Over time, especially in coins that are in bad condition, this portrait begins to lose detail. The hair becomes smooth, the cheekbones flatten, and fine lines disappear due to years of circulation and handling. On the reverse back of the coin, the design features Monticello, Jefferson's famous home in Virginia. Monticello is not just a house, it represents Jefferson's passion for architecture, innovation, and classical design. The building itself is shown in a detailed engraving, with visible columns, steps, windows, and dome structure. However, in a badly worn 1999 D nickel, these details are often faded or partially missing. The steps may blend together, the columns may appear as flat lines, and the lettering such as Monticello and 5 cents can become weak or even partially unreadable. This level of wear typically places the coin in a low grade such as good G4 or very good VG8 in numismatic terms. The composition of the 1999 D. Jefferson nickel is a copper-nickel clad mixture, specifically 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition has been used for nickels since 1946, after the wartime silver alloy nickels of World War II were discontinued. Because there is no silver or precious metal content, the intrinsic value of the coin is equal to its face value, 5 cents. This remains true regardless of condition. Whether the coin is shiny and uncirculated or worn and damaged, the metal itself does not add extra worth. However, collectors do not only look at metal, they focus on rarity, condition, and special features. In terms of mintage, the 1999 D. Jefferson nickel was produced in very large numbers, with over 1 billion coins struck at the Denver Mint alone. This extremely high production makes the coin very common in circulation. Even today, it is not unusual to find a 1999 D nickel in everyday pocket change. Because of this, coins in poor condition usually have no additional collector value beyond face value. A heavily worn or damaged example might only be worth exactly 5 cents, and sometimes even less in collector markets if the damage is severe, such as bending, corrosion, or deep scratches. However, there are exceptions that can make even a worn coin interesting. Some 1999 D nickels may have mint errors. These errors occur during the manufacturing process and can include doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear doubled, off-center strikes where the design is not properly aligned, die cracks, raised lines caused by damaged dies, or clipped planchettes where part of the coin is missing. If your coin has any unusual features like these, it could be worth more, even in bad condition. Collectors often carefully examine coins under magnification to look for such rare characteristics. Another important aspect of the 1999 D. Jefferson nickel is its place in the timeline of U.S. coin design. It represents the final years of the classic Jefferson nickel design before major changes were introduced in the early 2000s. In 2004 and 2005, the Westward Journey nickel series temporarily replaced Monticello with new reverse designs celebrating the Lewis and Clark expedition. Shortly after that, in 2006, the obverse portrait of Jefferson was redesigned to a more modern forward-facing image. Because of these changes, collectors often look back at pre-2004 nickels like the 1999 D as part of the original and traditional design era. For beginners in coin collecting, even a bad condition 1999 D nickel can be useful. It helps teach how coins wear over time, how to identify mint marks, and how to understand grading systems. You can compare your worn coin with images of higher grade examples to see how much detail has been lost. This process builds knowledge and experience, which is essential in numismatics. Many collectors start with common coins like this before moving on to rarer and more valuable pieces. Storage and care also play a role in preserving coins. Even though your coin is already in bad condition, keeping it in a dry, safe place can prevent further damage. Avoid cleaning the coin, as cleaning can scratch the surface and reduce any remaining collector value. It is always better to keep coins in their natural state, even if they are worn. In conclusion, the 1999 D. Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design is not a rare or highly valuable coin, especially in bad condition. Its market value is typically limited to 5 cents, but its historical, educational, and collectible significance should not be ignored. It represents decades of consistent American coin design, honors one of the nation's most important founding figures, and serves as a practical example for learning about coin grading and collecting. Even a simple, worn coin like this can tell a long story about history, craftsmanship, and the journey of money through everyday life. Next up, the 1990 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel with the classic Monticello reverse is a very common piece of U.S. coinage, but it still carries a long story of history, design, and everyday circulation, especially when found in bad condition. This coin features Thomas Jefferson on the front, a design that has been used since 1938, making it one of the longest-running designs in American coin history. By 1990, the coin had already become a familiar part of daily life in the United States, passing through millions of hands in shops, markets, and banks. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, many 1990 nickels from Philadelphia may appear without a visible mint mark in casual observation, but officially they are considered mint coins because they were struck at the Philadelphia Mint operated by the United States Mint. The Philadelphia Mint is the oldest mint facility in the United States and has produced billions of coins for circulation. The absence or presence of a small mark above Monticello, depending on strike clarity, identifies its origin. The obverse side of the 1990 Jefferson nickel shows a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. In coins that are in bad condition, this portrait is usually heavily worn. The sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the definition of his eye, and the fine lines of his facial features often fade after years of use. In extreme wear, his profile can look almost smooth, with very little detail remaining. Scratches, dirt, discoloration, and even small dents are common signs of a coin that has spent decades in circulation. These marks tell a story of how often the coin has been handled, exchanged, and used in everyday transactions. On the reverse side, Monticello is the central design element. Originally, this building is shown with precise architectural detail, columns, steps, windows, and a dome. However, in a badly worn 1990 nickel, these details are usually flattened. The steps may merge together, the columns may lose their shape, and the inscriptions, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America, can become weak or partially unreadable. In very poor condition, only the basic outline of the building remains visible. The metal composition of the 1990 Jefferson nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it durability and resistance to corrosion compared to pure copper coins. However, even this durable composition cannot fully prevent wear over decades of circulation. Exposure to moisture, chemicals, and environmental conditions can cause toning, color changes, dark spots, or surface damage. Coins found in soil or humid environments often show even more severe deterioration. From a value perspective, a 1990 Jefferson nickel in bad condition is generally worth only its face value, 5 cents. This is because the coin is very common, with hundreds of millions produced that year. There is no silver or precious metal content, so the coin does not gain value from its material. In the collector market, condition is extremely important. Coins graded as mint state, uncirculated, can sometimes be worth a small premium, but once a coin is heavily worn or damaged, its collectible value drops significantly. However, there are rare exceptions that can increase value. Some 1990 nickels may have mint errors such as double dies, where letters appear doubled, off-center strikes, clipped planchettes, or die cracks. Even in worn condition, such errors can attract collectors and may be worth more than face value. These errors are uncommon, but they are one of the main reasons collectors examine even ordinary coins carefully. The 1990 Jefferson nickel also represents a period just before major design changes in the early 2000s. It belongs to the classic Monticello design era, which lasted until the introduction of the Westward Journey nickel series in 2004–2005. During that later period, the reverse design changed to commemorate historical events, and eventually the portrait of Jefferson was redesigned in 2006. Because of this, coins like the 1990 nickel are often kept by collectors as part of a complete historical set. For beginners, a worn 1990 nickel is still useful. It helps in learning coin grading, identifying mint origins, and understanding how coins change over time. By comparing a worn coin with a new or uncirculated one, you can clearly see the effects of wear and handling. This makes it an excellent educational tool for anyone starting in coin collecting. In terms of care, even a coin in bad condition should not be cleaned. Cleaning can scratch the surface and remove natural toning, which collectors generally prefer to keep intact. It is best to store coins in a dry, safe place, such as a coin holder or album, to prevent further damage. In conclusion, the 1990 Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design is not rare or highly valuable in bad condition, but it remains an important part of American coin history. It reflects decades of consistent design, honors Thomas Jefferson's legacy, and provides insight into the journey of everyday currency. Even though its monetary value is low, its historical and educational value makes it worth understanding and appreciating. Next up, the 1995 D. Jefferson nickel with the classic Monticello design is a widely circulated coin that represents a long and stable era of American coinage. Even when found in bad condition, this coin carries historical meaning, educational value, and insight into how everyday currency evolves through time. The D Mint mark on this coin shows that it was produced at the Denver facility of the United States Mint, one of the primary mints responsible for producing circulating coins in the United States. On the front obverse of the 1995 D nickel, you will find the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson. This design, originally created by Felix Schlag in 1938, had remained mostly unchanged for decades by the time this coin was minted. Jefferson's portrait symbolizes leadership, intelligence, and the founding ideals of the United States. However, in coins that are in bad condition, this portrait often appears heavily worn. The fine details of Jefferson's hair, eyes, and facial structure gradually fade due to years of handling. In very worn coins, the face may look smooth, with almost no visible detail remaining, making it difficult to appreciate the original craftsmanship. The reverse side of the coin displays Monticello, Jefferson's historic home in Virginia. This building is an important symbol of American history and architecture, reflecting Jefferson's interest in classical design and innovation. In a new or well-preserved coin, Monticello appears sharp and detailed, with clear steps, columns, and lettering. However, in a 1995 D nickel that is in poor condition, these features are often significantly degraded. The steps may blend together, the columns may lose their distinct shape, and inscriptions like Monticello and 5 cents can become faint or partially missing. In extreme cases, only the outline of the building is visible. The coin's composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel, a standard mixture used for U.S. nickel since the mid-20th century. This alloy gives the coin durability, but it does not prevent wear entirely. Over time, exposure to moisture, dirt, and environmental conditions can cause discoloration, toning, and surface damage. Coins that have been in circulation for many years often show scratches, dents, and dark spots, all of which reduce their visual appeal and collector value. From a value standpoint, the 1995 D Jefferson nickel is extremely common. Hundreds of millions were produced, meaning it is easy to find even today. In bad condition, the coin is generally worth only its face value of 5 cents. There is no silver or precious metal content to increase its intrinsic worth, and collectors typically prefer coins that are in better condition. As a result, heavily worn or damaged examples have little demand in the collector market. However, there are rare situations where a 1995 D nickel can be worth more. If the coin has a mint error, such as a double die, off-center strike, clipped planchet, or die crack, it may attract interest from collectors. These errors are uncommon, but they are one of the main reasons people examine even ordinary coins carefully. Even a coin in poor condition can have added value if it displays a clear and interesting error. The 1995 D nickel also belongs to the traditional design era that existed before major changes in the early 2000s. It is part of the long-running Monticello reverse series that continued until the introduction of the Westward Journey nickel series in 2004-2005. This later redesign temporarily replaced Monticello with new images celebrating American exploration and history, and eventually led to a modernized portrait of Jefferson in 2006. Because of this transition, coins like the 1995 D are often collected as part of the classic Jefferson nickel series. 4. Beginners in coin collecting. A worn 1995 D nickel can still be very useful. It helps in understanding how coins are graded, how mint marks are identified, and how wear affects design details over time. By comparing a worn coin with a high-grade example, collectors can learn to recognize different levels of preservation. This makes even a low-value coin an important educational tool. It is also important to avoid cleaning such coins. Cleaning can scratch the surface and remove natural toning, which collectors generally prefer to keep. Even if the coin is already in bad condition, cleaning can reduce any remaining value and make it less desirable. In conclusion, the 1995 D. Jefferson nickel with the Monticello design is not rare or highly valuable in bad condition, but it remains an important piece of American coinage history. It reflects decades of consistent design, honors Thomas Jefferson's legacy, and provides insight into the everyday use of currency. While its monetary value may be low, its historical and educational significance make it worth understanding and appreciating, especially for those interested in the world of coin collecting. Next up, the 1978 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is a classic example of everyday American currency that has traveled through decades of circulation, carrying both historical significance and educational value, even when it is found in bad condition. When a 1978 nickel has no mint mark, it means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, operated by the United States Mint. During that period, Philadelphia coins often did not display a visible mint mark, which sometimes confuses beginners into thinking the coin is rare, but in reality, it is completely normal for that era. On the obverse front of the coin, you will see the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, facing left. This design was introduced in 1938 and remained largely unchanged for many decades, including 1978. Jefferson's image represents intelligence, leadership, and the founding principles of the United States. However, when the coin is in bad condition, much of the fine detail is lost. The hair becomes flat, the facial features soften, and the sharpness of the design fades away. In heavily worn coins, Jefferson's face can appear almost smooth, with very little detail left to distinguish the original engraving. The reverse back of the coin features Monticello, Jefferson's historic home in Virginia. This building symbolizes his contributions not only to politics but also to architecture and design. In a well-preserved coin, Monticello appears detailed, with visible columns, steps, windows, and dome structure. But in a 1978 nickel that has been heavily circulated, these details are often worn down significantly. The steps may blend into a single flat surface, the columns may lose their definition, and inscriptions such as Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America may become faint or partially erased. In extreme cases, only the outline of the building remains visible. The composition of the 1978 Jefferson nickel is the standard copper-nickel alloy used since 1946, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This durable composition allows the coin to survive many years of use, but it does not prevent wear completely. Coins that have been exposed to moisture, dirt, and environmental factors may show discoloration, dark toning, corrosion spots, or surface damage. Scratches, dents, and edge wear are also common in coins that have been in circulation for a long time. All of these factors contribute to the coin being classified as bad condition. In terms of grading, a heavily worn 1978 nickel may fall into categories such as good G4 or very good VG8. In these grades, the major design elements are still visible, but fine details are mostly gone. If the coin is even more damaged, such as being bent, corroded, or heavily scratched, it may fall below standard grading levels and be considered simply a damaged coin. When it comes to value, the 1978 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is extremely common. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced, making them easy to find even today. In bad condition, the coin is typically worth only its face value of 5 cents. There is no silver or precious metal content to increase its intrinsic value, so its worth depends entirely on collector interest. Unfortunately, collectors usually prefer coins in better condition, so heavily worn examples have very little demand in the market. However, there are some rare exceptions. If a 1978 nickel has a mint error, it may be worth more. Errors can include doubled dies where letters or numbers appear doubled, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clipped planchettes. Even in worn condition, these unusual features can attract collectors and increase the coin's value. That is why it is always a good idea to examine old coins carefully, even if they appear common at first glance. The 1978 nickel is also part of the long-running, classic, Jefferson series that lasted until the early 2000s. This era ended when the Westward Journey nickel series was introduced in 2004-2005, bringing temporary design changes to the reverse and eventually a new portrait of Jefferson in 2006. Because of this, coins like the 1978 nickel are often included in collections as part of the traditional Monticello design series. For beginners, a worn 1978 nickel is still very useful. It helps in learning how to identify mint origins, understand coin grading, and recognize the effects of long-term circulation. By comparing a worn coin with a high-grade example, you can clearly see how details are gradually lost over time. This makes it an excellent teaching tool for anyone interested in coin collecting. It is also important to avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning can scratch the surface and remove natural toning, which can further reduce any remaining collector value. Even if the coin is already in bad condition, it is better to keep it in its original state. Proper storage in a dry and safe place can help prevent further damage. In conclusion, the 1978 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is not rare or highly valuable in bad condition, but it still holds historical and educational importance. It represents a long period of consistent American coin design, honors Thomas Jefferson's legacy, and provides insight into how coins wear and age over time. While its monetary value may be low, its connection to history and its usefulness as a learning tool make it worth understanding and appreciating. Next up, the 1963 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is a classic piece of American coinage history, and even in bad condition it tells a long and detailed story about design, circulation, and the legacy of Thomas Jefferson. When a coin from 1963 has no mint mark, it means it was produced at the Philadelphia facility of the United States Mint. During that time period, Philadelphia coins typically did not carry a mint mark, so this is completely normal and not a rare error. Many new collectors mistakenly believe a missing mint mark increases value, but for this year, it simply identifies the coin's origin. The obverse front of the coin features the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag in 1938. This portrait remained unchanged for decades, including 1963, making it one of the most recognizable images in U.S. coinage. Jefferson was chosen because of his immense contribution to American history as the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States. In a coin that is in bad condition, however, this portrait loses much of its original beauty. The fine details of the hair, the sharpness of the eye, and the contours of the face become worn down after years of handling. In heavily circulated examples, Jefferson's profile may appear flat and smooth, with only the general outline remaining visible. On the reverse back side, the coin displays Monticello, Jefferson's historic home in Virginia. Monticello is not just a building, it is a symbol of Jefferson's architectural vision and intellectual curiosity. In a well-preserved coin, Monticello is shown with intricate detail, columns, steps, windows, and dome are all clearly visible. However, in a 1963 nickel that has been heavily worn, these features are often greatly reduced. The steps may appear flat, the columns may blend into the background, and the inscriptions, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America, can become weak or partially unreadable. In very poor condition, only the rough shape of the building remains. The composition of the 1963 Jefferson nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, a standard alloy used since 1946 after the wartime silver nickels were discontinued. This composition makes the coin durable enough to survive many years of circulation, but it does not prevent wear completely. Coins that have been used extensively often show scratches, dents, edge wear, and discoloration. Environmental exposure, such as moisture, soil, or chemicals, can cause toning, dark spots, or corrosion. All of these factors contribute to the coin being classified as bad condition. From a grading perspective, a worn 1963 nickel may fall into categories like good G4 or very good VG8, where major design elements are still visible but fine details are mostly gone. If the coin is severely damaged, bent, corroded, or deeply scratched, it may not qualify for a standard grade and is simply considered damaged. In such cases, collector interest is usually very low. When it comes to value, the 1963 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is very common. Millions were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and many still exist today. In bad condition, the coin is generally worth only its face value of 5 cents. There is no silver or precious metal content to increase its intrinsic value. Collectors usually prefer coins in higher grades, so heavily worn examples have little demand in the market. However, there are some important exceptions. If a 1963 nickel has a mint error, it could be worth more. Errors might include doubled dies where letters or numbers appear doubled, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clipped planchettes. Even in worn condition, such unusual features can attract collectors and increase value. That is why, it is always recommended to inspect coins carefully, even if they appear ordinary at first glance. The year 1963 is also historically interesting because it was the final full year before the introduction of the Kennedy half-dollar in 1964, following a major national event. Although this does not directly affect the nickel's value, it places the coin within an important period in U.S. history. The Jefferson nickel design itself would continue unchanged for many more decades until the introduction of the Westward Journey nickel series in 2004-2005, which temporarily replaced the Monticello design and later updated Jefferson's portrait. For beginners in coin collecting, a worn 1963 nickel is still very useful. It helps in learning how to identify coins without mint marks, understand grading systems, and recognize how designs change with wear over time. Comparing a worn coin to a well-preserved example can clearly show how circulation affects detail and appearance. This makes it an excellent educational tool. It is also important not to clean the coin. Cleaning can damage the surface and remove natural toning, which collectors generally prefer to keep. Even if the coin is already in poor condition, cleaning can make it less desirable. In conclusion, the 1963 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is not rare or highly valuable in bad condition, but it remains an important piece of American coin history. It represents a long tradition of consistent design, honors Thomas Jefferson's legacy, and provides insight into how everyday currency is used and worn over time. While its monetary value is low, its historical and educational significance make it worth understanding and appreciating, especially for those interested in coin collecting. Please like and subscribe to my channel.